here what I've now done is I've taken it off the lathe obviously, and I've laid it on its face. So I'm looking at the bottom of the piece here, and you can see the foot that I've turned that's going to get gripped by the chuck. I'm going to change the jaws of the chuck so that I can grab this bigger piece, gives me a firmer grip. But I've also, you can see that it's now darker. Two things have happened. I've filled some of the little depressions that are in the surface still, some of those tear outs, and I've applied a product which is a wet rot wood hardener, because in effect this wood is fairly down the road to being rotted, which is why it makes it so difficult to get a decent finish on it. A lot of people would abandon a piece like this because it's so difficult, where there's soft pieces and hard pieces. It's very difficult to get any kind of finish. So I've applied this product. It's going to dry over the next 20 minutes or so, and then I'll give this another sanding. I'll put it back on the lathe the way it was, and I'll give it another sanding just to get some finish here, because once this is on the lathe it's going to be difficult for me to get in here. Not impossible, but a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to let this dry now. It'll come back up to its light colour like this, not completely, but it'll come back up to this light colour, and then I can sand it again, but now it will be much harder. And because this product sinks in and then goes off and sets like a plastic, a clear resin inside the wood, and so it'll be much harder, and I'll get a much even finish on it, and I can go up through several grades of sandpaper to get a reasonable finish, and then mount it on here and turn the inside. So now I need to flatten this off. I've got full protection on, where it gets really violent. Now surprisingly, it actually does cause less tear out than if I did it with a tool, even a very sharp tool. Okay, a couple of little tricks here. Just been doing some more sanding, a little bit more filling with the dust, and also try and keep this thing balanced, because it was very out of balance when I first started, because part of it, this area here, is actually only lightly spelted and is actually quite solid wood, but over here it's heavily spelted and is actually very light. Just at the top here you can see that what I've actually done is screwed a lead weight to the back of this in the area where the actual platter, the bowl, if you want to call it a wide bowl, is going to be scooped out, so that I've screwed a weight to it here to actually counterbalance it, and you can see it's fairly well balanced now, which means I can spin it up to a reasonable speed without too much vibration. There's not a lot of vibration here now because I've got it quite well balanced. So I've been going over it with the belt sander, and the belt sander's got a very flat base on it, so when I apply that flat base to the surface, anything that's really soft is going to be sanded as well, but it's going to be protected by the hard wood on either side of it that's actually being held up against this flat base. So it's quite a rough belt, this as well, so it actually stops the very soft wood from digging in which is what I'm trying to avoid, to try and give myself a smooth surface. And you can see this surface is actually coming up quite well now with that wet rock wood hardener that I put in. It's actually gone completely off now. You can see that this is actually starting to give me a bit of a finish. And again, I'll go through finer and finer grits of paper on the belt sander, and then I'll start hand sanding it as well and get up to quite high grits before I turn this thing round. So I've sanded this down now, and for the last couple of minutes I've just been sorting out these cuts I'm doing. I've put a flat base here in, which is basically just a plywood jig that I've made up. Again, another plywood jig here carrying my router, and all I've got in here is a triangular faced bit that I can use to do this, so a chamfer bit basically. And I put that on there, draw it across and make the cut. So again, I'm using my indexing tool like you saw me use on my last video, and I'm just drawing this through now to show you a cleaning cut. Cleans up that. Again, I'm going to have to get a tool here, say a block with some sanding paper on it, just to clean these up, because it is very, very soft wood. It is very, very badly spelted, and it does still get a little bit of tear out even with a high-speed tool like this, even though that is very sharp again. So I'll just do a few more of those. Let me just get myself back round to where I was, which was there. So the next one is there, and let's do some cuts. Again, you see I've got a stop block just out here, which catches the edge of the jig that's holding the router and gives me the stop so I don't carry on round too far. It gives me an even look for these cuts all the way around. Now you can see I've reversed it on the lathe, and I'm just scooping out now, again with the carving tool. And again, I'm going to go down till about 5 mil thicker than I want it to be. Again, it's pulling out, you can see it ripping and tearing the surface. And again, no matter how sharp your tools are, it will always do that. So I'm going to get the bulk out with this and then turn to the sanding discs again. Again, I'm wearing full PPE. After that stage of using the carving tool, you can see that the surface is particularly grainy and is very unstable. So I'm going to sand all this down now to approximately the depth of that hole there, and then again use the wear up wood hardener to stabilise these fibres so that I can then put a decent finish on it, and also to get the final shape. As you can see here, I've just spent a couple of minutes here now just truing up this outside edge, and you can see here it's hardly, well, it hasn't actually marked it there at all, because that's the width I need to go to. And you can see here it just starts to mark it, and again around here you can see how far out of true it's become, and again back to next to nothing here. So it goes from not actually doing a cut there to 180 degrees out, doing quite a substantial cut that you can see there.
So what I'm doing here is I've got the rest so I can just run this down the edge like that. Because the fibres are facing me, it tends to cut off, and you can see it hasn't actually spored out too badly at all here, so it'll require minimum sanding, but that's because I'm cutting down into the fibres. And again, I've got to go very gently. I'll show you doing that. And again, you saw the eccentricity run out here as it came into the area where I'd sanded it before. Again, I've still got some tear out here, but actually this is the area you can see here. This is the area where I wasn't cutting. So again, now I'm going to turn to my sanding system. I'm going to use, I'll probably use the belt sander and sand this up. And again, you can still see it has done some tear out here. But I am going to sand this up now and try and get some kind of finish on it. It's going to be difficult here, might need some filling, but I'll show you that when we get to it. Here you can see I've got the lathe going backwards just to be counter rotating to the belt, and I'm just going to do some sanding on this surface now. Full dust mask and goggles, and I'm going to try to do some more sanding here again to try and get rid of some of these deeper holes and try and smooth it out a little bit. You can see it's not entirely flat, and I want to try and take this area here to try and make it flatter. So let's have a go at that. Filler. So still wearing on protective stuff. I need to get the inside of the platter here just to smooth this out. Now I'm going to use a sanding drum with a high-speed tool. So now, still wearing my dust mask, I'm going to remove the foot. I've waxed the inside of this thing, nice and shiny now. See, I managed to get a reasonable finish on it. Again, I'll let the wax sit up a bit more, and I'll rub it down again with a buffer, and that'll take out those rotary marks that I've got in the wax. But now I need to get rid of this foot, the dovetail that was in the jaws of the chuck, and I've got this power file, and I'm just going to remove the material with this. So we are almost finished now. I've just been sanding this, spent a few minutes sanding the marks out. There's lots of dips in here where it's really soft. This bit has never had any wet wood hardener on it, so it's quite still quite soft. However, since it's the base, I'm just going to wax it, and that'll bring up the same finish. So again, plenty of wax on because it's going to soak it up quite a lot. Fill some of these holes as well. So here we are done now. You can see that there's still some little bits in here, some little depressions that didn't quite pick up on the polish and on the wax, and I'll leave those as a feature just to show you that it is it's rotted timber really. As the bottom, again waxed up now, not as shiny as the top because I didn't really leave it long enough to put before I put polish on it. I'll come back to that tomorrow and possibly give it another towel up and try and get a polish on it. But there it is. Hope you enjoyed watching me make it, and if you
do find any wood that's heavily spelted like this and do make something out of it, then do take a photograph and post it up and let us know where it is, because I'd be very interested to see it. So good luck, and I hope you enjoyed me turning it.